Imagine being reborn in a new world and being trained by the 3 legendary heroes who sealed the evil lord. Sounds exciting, right? Well, not when you wake up and instead of seeing mom and dad as most babies do, your eyes open to a skeleton, a lady that looks like a mummy, and an old ghost. You get scared and start to cry, thinking they might hurt you. But, to your surprise, they treat you kindly. They even give you a name, William. After being with them for 6 months, they show you the outside of their home, which is a temple. The first time little William steps out, he gets teary-eyed because everything is so beautiful. At first, he thought he was trapped in a bad place, maybe even hell. But now, he feels lucky and grateful for this new chance at life. By the time William turns 3, he begins to learn about this world from Gus, the elderly ghost. William admires Gus a lot because he is very smart and teaches him many things. Gus believes that words have a lot of power. To show William, he writes a magic spell in the air which suddenly turns into fire. William is amazed and Gus tells him, "You're a wizard, William." While wandering around the temple, William learns about the gods of this world. One statue, a goddess, makes him very curious. When he asks Mary, the mummy lady, about it, she explains that the statue is of goddess Gracefield, who takes care of the cycle of life and death. Soon, the skeleton named Blood comes by with a boar for dinner. As they sit to eat, Blood tells young William that he'll teach him how to hunt when he gets older. But Mary believes that William is still a little boy and shouldn't worry about that now. Gus agrees with Mary and thinks that since William is so clever, he should keep learning magic for now. William is so smart that he can already read and write, even though he's only 3. One day, while eating, William asks Mary where the bread they eat comes from since they don't have a kitchen. Mary smiles and says it's a secret. William feels that they all have secrets they don't tell him. He often wonders why they live so far from everyone else, why there are no other people like him, and why his 3 friends are not alive like he is. But William has a secret too. Inside, he remembers another life as a human, long before he came to this world. After a few more years, we see an older William practicing with Blood. Blood always says that having strong muscles is key. With them, one can overcome almost anything. It's like a superhero training, but in hell. After working really hard and sweating a lot, Will starts to learn magic from Gus. He's become good at making fire with his spells, but he's still learning to control it properly. Gus, the old man, tells Will that he doesn't like using very powerful spells. He believes that it's better to be really good at the simpler spells. Gus also has an interesting point of view. He tells Will that the most powerful thing in the world isn't magic, but money. He jokingly says if Will has a lot of money, he can solve any problem, and he should learn to be smart with it. When it becomes night, Mary talks to Will about the gods who are not so good. She talks about a god named Stagnate, who is the god for people like her, Gus, and Blood who aren't really alive. She shares a surprising thing with Will. Long ago, she, Gus, and Blood were just like him. They were humans. But something happened that made them side with Stagnate and leave the good gods. Mary stops talking about it, saying it's a topic for another day. Later, William goes outside and learns how to hunt a bird, but he feels really sad about it. When he talks to Blood about how he feels, Blood says he understands. Blood doesn't like hurting things either, but sometimes they need to do it to stay alive. One day, Blood wants to see how much William has learned, so he suggests they should have a friendly fight. Blood tells William he can use all the magic that Gus taught him. As they start, Blood moves really fast towards William, but William is quick and moves away. William tries to trap Blood with a spell that makes webs, but Blood is too strong and breaks free. In the end, Blood wins the match, but he's really proud of how much William has learned for his age. Blood then talks about the past. He says Gus was a really strong magician who beat big monsters. He also tells Will that he was called the Ogre of War and Mary was Mater's daughter. But they don't talk about it much because their stories are kind of sad and they think Will is too young to hear them. Gus also shares that at first, he didn't think they should take care of Will, but now he thinks Will is very special and can be helpful to them. The next day, William is busy working in the fields. Mary tells him she's going to the temple to pray. William has noticed that she goes there a lot and she's told him he's not allowed in. Later, after practicing with Blood, he sees Mary with some bread she got from inside the temple. The next day, being the curious boy he is, William sneaks in after Mary to see what she's doing. To his shock, he sees Mary surrounded by flames. William tries to save her but gets hurt in the process. Lying in his bed, hurt from the burns, Mary is really sad and feels it's her fault. Blood also feels bad and says he should have watched over them better. Gus quickly steps in, trying to make everyone feel better. He tells them that William's injuries are not as bad as they look. He will heal, but he might have a scar. Just as he says this, William wakes up. Mary feels really bad about everything. She tells William that the special bread she gives him is actually a gift from a very important goddess called Mater. She also admits something big. She is hurt by the flames as a punishment because she made a bad choice a long time ago. She chose to side with Stagnate instead of staying loyal to Mater. But the bread she gives to William is because she prays to Mater, even if it hurts her. And she has been doing this even before William was born. Hearing all this, William decides to join Mary in praying to Mater. Time seems to fly, and 5 years pass really fast. One day, after all these years, Mary finds William doing a really long and hard prayer without making a sound. And it lasts 5 whole days. She's proud of him for doing it. After that, it's time for William to learn more magic. Gus teaches him harder spells. Once done with Gus, he trains with Blood. Blood has a surprise. He caught a skeleton for William to fight. The skeleton gets up, ready to attack William, but William uses his sword and wins easily. Blood is super impressed and thinks William is ready for a bigger test. The two of them go to a nearby city and find a hidden underground path. Blood tells William that it used to be filled with people, but now it's full of creatures like the undead. He challenges William to go through it and come back on his own. Just as William starts, 2 skeletons appear, but William fights them off without a problem. William then thinks about his life and shares with us that in his old world, he was always alone. But in this world, he always had Gus, Mary, and Blood with him. As he's thinking, another undead creature comes at him. William jumps really high with the help of magic and breaks the creature with his sword. But, oh no, his sword breaks. William starts to panic, thinking he can't defend himself. But then, he finds a spear on the ground. At first, he thinks it's just a simple spear, but it's actually a special one made by dwarves. Things get even weirder when he sees Gus in the mist. But something's wrong. Gus starts attacking him, trying to hurt him. William is super confused. Why would Gus do this? Things get more intense when Gus uses magic to bring a big rock creature to life, which charges at William. But William dodges and finds a weak spot in the creature, making it fall apart. But Gus isn't done. He keeps using magic to attack William. One of his spells hits William, and William realizes he can use the spear he found against ghosts. He thinks maybe he has to fight Gus for real. But when the time comes for William to fight back, he can't do it. He stops himself. William just couldn't bring himself to hurt Gus. He always thought of Gus as his grandfather. In fact, he'd rather get hurt himself than hurt Gus. Suddenly, Gus starts laughing really hard. He tells William he was just trying to teach him a tough lesson. William was a bit shocked because he could tell Gus wasn't telling the whole truth, but he chose to stay quiet. After that day, Blood started taking William more often to the place filled with undead creatures. He wanted William to get even better with his spear. William noticed that he was being sent there more frequently, but over time, the undead weren't as scary or challenging for him anymore. One evening, Gus and Blood had an idea to teach William about a bad habit that a lot of people have, called gambling. But before they could even start, Mary came in and gave them a big scolding. William thought that she scolded them just like how a mother scolds her child every single day. Later on, Gus tells William that his 15th birthday is coming up. He also tells him that he will have a big challenge against Blood. William, being brave, tells Gus that he's ready and wants to win. But then Gus tells him a secret. He suggests that it might be a good idea for William to lose the fight on purpose. William is confused. Why would he do that? He doesn't get any answers from Gus, Blood, or Mary about their past. And because of that, he decides not to listen to Gus. William then has a thought. When he becomes an adult, he will need to choose one god to pray to for his whole life. In return, that god will give him a special gift. But Blood warns him that these gifts can sometimes come with challenges. As William is about to become a man, Blood decides they should celebrate. They drink together and end up getting really giggly and silly. But when they go back to their room, they accidentally see Mary changing her clothes. They try to sneak a peek without her knowing, but William trips over something and they get caught. Mary is really mad and gives William a big slap on his face. The next day, when William is training, Mary comes over with a shiny set of armor. She asks him which god he wants to pledge his loyalty to when he turns 15. Feeling confident, William tells her his choice. Then, it's time for the big duel against Blood. Blood sets one rule: they can only use swords, no magic allowed. As they start fighting, Blood is super aggressive. William does his best, using a shield to block Blood's attacks. He even throws his spear at Blood, but it doesn't work. Then, in a big move, William jumps at Blood, sword ready. But Blood is too quick. He catches William and throws him to the ground. And just like that, William loses. After their fight, Blood gives William a gift. It's a magical sword that can take the life energy from anyone it cuts. Blood tells William to use it wisely. William looked at the magical sword. It was powerful, but Blood warned him to be careful. If he used it too much, it could make him very strong, but it could also make him lose control. This wasn't just any sword. It had a nickname, the Cursed Sword. Blood took a deep breath. "It's time you knew everything," he said. Mary began the story. 200 years ago, there was a really big war. The High King wanted to rule the entire world. So, he created huge armies of scary demons to help him. These demons were really bad. They gave blood sacrifices to their god called the God of Dimensions. Two other gods, Tyranny and Stagnate, didn't like this at all. They wanted to stop the High King and his demon army. They gathered their own troops and started a huge battle against the demons. But the High King had a secret. He had the same cursed sword that William now held. With it, he could turn his own blood into more demon soldiers. William frowned. He thought the High King was cheating by doing that. Blood continued the story. The only way to hurt the High King was with blades. Arrows or magic spells did nothing to him. Everyone thought that the world would soon end. But then Gus had an idea. William was excited. He remembered all the clever things Gus had taught him, and he quickly guessed the plan. Gus wanted to sneak into the castle and take the cursed sword away from the High King. That way, he couldn't make more demons. With the help of his magic, Gus would defeat the demons. At the same time, Blood would fight the High King, and Mary would use her healing powers to help Blood. William smiled, thinking he knew how the story ended. But Blood shook his head. "It's not what you think," he said. They never defeated the High King because he had another surprise. He was actually a demon himself. Blood said he tried his best, but the High King was just too good with his sword. Even with Gus and Mary's help, they couldn't beat him. Mary took over the story again. Instead of trying to defeat the High King, they used magic to trap him in a deep dark hole called the Abyss. But then, Stagnate, the god who controls undead creatures, came to them. He had a deal for them. He would help them get rid of all the demons in the city if they joined his undead army. They agreed. So, Blood became a skeleton, Mary became a mummy, and Gus turned into a ghost. Stagnate kept his promise and got rid of the demons. Then, they told William a big secret. Because of the deal they made with Stagnate, they couldn't leave the city. And 200 years later, William showed up. The last part of the story was about him. Blood explained that a group of demons brought William to the city. They wanted to sacrifice him to free the High King. William felt a lump in his throat. Now he knew why they didn't tell him earlier. He realized they were trying to protect him. Mary sat Will down and tried to explain things. "Since demons brought you here, there must be humans living close by," she began. She continued to say that they weren't sure what was happening in the world outside, so it was really important for Will to be strong. Will stood up, deep in thought. He talked about wanting to return someday after having more adventures. He even dreamed of having a family and introducing them to Mary and Blood, whom he saw as his parents. But Mary and Blood gave him some advice. Mary reminded him to always do good things and pray. Blood smiled, saying, "You are my best student, Will." Mary hugged him tightly, saying she was glad to be his mother and that she loved him a lot. Will looked at them, feeling puzzled. It seemed like they were saying goodbye, like they wouldn't see each other again. Just then, Stagnate appeared out of nowhere. He was there to take the souls of Mary, Blood, and Gus because of a deal they made long ago. Suddenly, Gus ran in, yelling at Will to run away. Gus began casting powerful spells on Stagnate. For a moment, everyone thought they won when Stagnate disappeared. But then he came back, attacking Gus, then Mary and Blood. Stagnate walked up to Will, offering him a chance to join his army of the undead and live forever with Mary, Blood, and Gus. He told Will to think about it and left. Tears streamed down Will's face as he carried the bodies of his friends back to their home. But the next morning, he woke up and saw Mary, Blood, and Gus all okay. That's when Will told them a secret. He remembered living a different life before this one, where he wasn't a good person. But now, he wanted to do better. Mary quickly slapped him, saying he shouldn't feel guilty about his past. The next day, Will met Stagnate again. He told Stagnate he didn't want to join his undead army. Stagnate was impressed but summoned skeletons from the ground to attack Will. There were so many. Stagnate offered Will another chance to join him and even hurt himself, showing Will a cup of his blood. To agree, Will would have to drink it. As Will got closer to the cup, he suddenly pulled out his sword and attacked Stagnate, cutting off his arm. In retaliation, Stagnate made a snake appear that bit Will from behind, making him black out. When Will woke up, he found himself in a wet cave. A mysterious young woman was there, asking him why he didn't want to join Stagnate. Will began to explain that in his previous life, he wasn't truly dead, but he felt like he didn't have a real reason to live. After coming to this world, he decided he wanted to live a full and happy life. That's why he's so determined to protect Mary, Blood, and Gus, who have cared for him like family. Suddenly, the young woman in front of him revealed herself to be a goddess of light. They made an agreement she would help and protect him. With her support, Will felt really strong and began praying. Just then, Stagnate realized that Will had teamed up with this powerful goddess named Gracefeel. Angry, Stagnate sent his skeleton soldiers to attack Will. But Will, with just one powerful move, destroyed all of them. Stagnate tried to run away, but with Gracefeel's help, Will could see where he was heading, straight to the temple where his friends Mary, Blood, and Gus were. Will ran as fast as he could to the temple. When he got there, he saw Stagnate about to hurt Mary and Blood. He tried to stop him but knew he wouldn't get there fast enough. But then, another goddess appeared. Will recognized her as the one Mary always prayed to. He realized that this Mater goddess wasn't mad at Mary for making a deal with Stagnate. Mary was so relieved and happy that she started crying. Using this chance, Will threw a lightning bolt at Stagnate. But Stagnate stopped it easily with his own magic. Blood tried to jump in and attack, but Stagnate dodged. Then, taking advantage of this quick distraction, Will rushed forward, stabbing Stagnate with his sword. He kept attacking and finally defeated Stagnate, who disappeared into thin air. Everyone was super happy and thankful for saving them. But in the middle of planning a big celebration, Mary and Blood suddenly fell down. They explained that without Stagnate, they couldn't continue living as undead. Even though he was very sad, they told Will he couldn't change this. They were proud of the good person he became and wanted him to always do the right thing. For a short moment, Will could see what Mary and Blood looked like as humans before they became undead. Later, Gus joined them, and they all spent a wonderful evening together. The next morning, Mary and Blood had passed away, and their spirits went to the goddess. When Will woke up, Gus was still there. He wondered why Gus didn't leave too. Gus gave Will all his savings and explained that someone needed to keep an eye on the seal to make sure a bad being named Soldier didn't get out. That's why he had made his own deal with Gracefeel. Packing up his things, Will said goodbye to Gus and started his next adventure. Following this, there's a memory showing Blood and Mary when they were humans, fighting against Stagnate. Blood had told Mary that the upcoming fight would be very dangerous and maybe she shouldn't join. But Mary wanted to fight by his side no matter what. Blood and Mary were in love. While getting ready for the battle, they talked about their dreams for the future. Blood said that if they ever had a baby boy, they should name him William, just like Will's name. Mary liked the idea and said she loved the name. Will continues his journey by bravely fighting and beating some scary monsters in a forest. A few days later, he found a city that was all destroyed. He looked everywhere, but he couldn't find anyone. So, Will prayed to the goddess, hoping that the souls of the people who used to live there would find peace. Then he continued on his journey. After some more time, a wild boar suddenly ran towards him. Will was able to stop the boar, but then he saw an arrow pointing right at him. An elf with a bow stepped out from behind the trees. The elf was upset because he thought Will had taken his hunting target, but Will explained that the boar was attacking him, and he was just protecting himself. The elf understood and they talked for a bit. Later, they cooked the boar and had a meal together. The elf said his name was Meneldor. Will asked if he could visit where Meneldor lived, but the elf told him it wouldn't be a good idea. That night, Will made a campfire and thought about how Meneldor was a half-elf and looked about the same age as him. When he fell asleep, he had a dream about a big fire and Meneldor. He felt like the dream was a special message, and he woke up worried that something bad was going to happen to Meneldor. Will used his magic to see where Meneldor had walked and followed his tracks. He came to another city and saw two people there, but before he could say hi, some men wearing hoods started shooting arrows at the two people. Will saved them just in time. When he looked at one of the arrows, he realized it was from Meneldor's bow. Meneldor told his friends to attack the city and then tried to fight Will too. Will used his shield to protect himself. Then Meneldor used a powerful fairy magic that made the ground shake. Will used his own magic to stop the shaking. Meneldor looked really surprised, but Meneldor's friends didn't give up. They started to cast a big fire spell at Will, but he was able to block it. Will starts to move quickly towards Meneldor. Before Meneldor realizes, Will uses his sword to gently knock him out. After that, he catches all of Meneldor's friends too. The people of the city come to speak with Will. They say that they know Meneldor and his group. They come from a village about a day's walk away. The city people are confused because they had helped Meneldor in the forest before. They don't understand why he wanted to hurt them now. Just then, an old man comes up to Will and thanks him for saving everyone. The next day, Will talks to Meneldor and his group. They tell him that monsters attacked their village. A lot of people died, and those who survived had to run away. Now, they don't have food or a place to live. They say they are very sorry for trying to hurt the city people. They were just so scared and hungry. Meneldor says it was his idea. The city people are very angry. They want to punish Meneldor and his friends. Will understands why they're angry, but he also wants to help Meneldor's group. He asks the city people if giving them some money would help fix things. They say it might. Then Will surprises them by taking out a bag full of gold coins. He tells them he needs Meneldor to help him go to his village and stop the monsters. The city people think about it and then say okay. Will and Meneldor walk for a day and finally reach the village. Meneldor tells Will to be careful because there are a lot of monsters and even a manticore, a creature with a human head, a lion's body, and bat wings. Will knows what a manticore is, which impresses Meneldor. Together, they fight off all the monsters and save the village. While looking around, they find a hurt boy who knows Meneldor. The boy tells them about the scary monsters that attacked. He says he was waiting for Meneldor to come and help. The boy reaches out to shake Meneldor's hand, but Meneldor is too scared and doesn't take it. The boy looks at himself, wondering if something's wrong with him. But Will steps in and holds the boy, telling him that Meneldor is just very tired. After some time, Meneldor finally holds the boy's hand. The boy says he's going to sleep now, and then he closes his eyes forever. Will says a prayer, asking the goddess to take care of the boy's spirit. After that, Meneldor takes Will to a house. Inside, they meet an old woman named Marple. Will feels like there's a strong ghost nearby and is a bit worried. But Marple seems nice and doesn't look like she wants to hurt them. Meneldor tells Will that Marple has a special power. She can help souls find their way back to the world and can also heal those who are hurt. Meneldor feels sad because he couldn't save Marple and his other friends from the monsters that hurt their village. Marple tells him it's okay and that he shouldn't be so hard on himself. She then asks if she and Will can be friends. After saying that, Marple starts to glow and floats up into the sky like she's going to heaven. Later that day, Will and Meneldor give a proper burial to those who had died. As they do this, Meneldor starts to share a story from his past with Will. He talks about how he lost his mom when he was born and how no one knew who his dad was. This made some people in his village be mean to him. When he grew up, he decided to leave his village and go on adventures. But during one of these adventures, someone in his group betrayed them and poisoned everyone. Meneldor was able to survive and even got back at the person who did this, but his other friends died. After that, he walked around with no real purpose until he found Marple's home. Back then, Marple was younger, and she helped Meneldor. As they continue their journey, Will and Meneldor see a giant gorilla trying to hurt a man and a young girl. Will quickly goes to help and scares the gorilla away just by looking at it. The girl says her name is Rabina and thanks Will for saving her. The man with her is Antonio. Rabina tells them that Antonio used to have a store, but it closed, so now they travel and sell things on the street. Rabina is excited to hear about all the monsters Will has defeated and suggests they all go to the same city together. When they reach the city, Rabina plays beautiful music that makes everyone stop and listen. Antonio has an idea. Will can help heal people and in return, people can buy things from Antonio. Later that night, Rabina sings a special song just for Will and Meneldor. The song is about 3 heroes from a long time ago named Gus, Blood, and Mary. Will gets emotional hearing the song because he knows the story it tells. After Rabina's song, they all go outside. Antonio asks Will what he wishes for more than anything else. Will tells him that he doesn't want things like gold or jewels. Instead, he wants to learn new things and make good friends. The next day, they all go to another city called Whitesides. Meneldor asks Antonio what's been happening in Whitesides since he hasn't been there for a long time. Antonio says there's a new leader in the city because the old king died. Now, the king's daughter is in charge, and her name is Owen. They all continue walking and after some time, they finally reach the city. Antonio tells the group that since the new king, Owen, started ruling, the city has become busier with more shops and a lot of ships coming in. The friends decide to explore the city and see everything it has to offer. Will is amazed by all the new things he sees in the city, like lights on the streets, places for people to go to the bathroom, and other useful things. They have a fun day walking around the city, but as they're getting ready to go to their rooms for the night, they hear a loud alarm. It's a warning that a dragon is attacking the city. Soldiers quickly come running to help the people who are hurt. Will runs outside to see what's happening and notices that the soldiers are having a hard time fighting the dragon. Without thinking, he uses a powerful lightning spell to try to hit the dragon. But the dragon moves and avoids the spell. Meneldor tells Will he shouldn't have used such strong magic without thinking, because it could have hurt someone. Will knows he made a mistake and says he's sorry. The soldiers tell King Owen to go somewhere safe, while Meneldor and Will try to use their magic together to stop the dragon. They manage to trap the dragon for a little while, but it soon breaks free. Will remembers that his plan was to make the dragon think they are the bad guys, so it would attack them. The dragon flies down, ready to breathe fire on them, but just in time, Will makes a magical barrier that protects them and causes the dragon to crash to the ground. With the dragon on the ground, Meneldor quickly throws a magic net over it, making it unable to move. Will then bravely goes up to the dragon and uses his spear to defeat it. Everyone in the city is so happy and thankful. They cheer and clap for Will, saying he's a hero. The king hears about what Will did and wants to meet him. When Will goes to see the king thanks him and says he's impressed with how powerful Will's magic is. Will is humble and tells the king that he didn't do it all by himself, pointing out how much Meneldor helped. But the king seems more interested in Will and wants to give him a reward for saving the city. At first, Will isn't sure, but then he decides to accept it. Will tells the king that there are other cities that are being attacked by monsters too and asks if the king can send soldiers to help. But the king says they can't because they have their own problems to deal with and don't have enough soldiers. Will doesn't want to just sit and do nothing, so he offers to get his own group of soldiers to help the other cities. The king thinks this is a bold idea and agrees, but on one condition, Will has to join the kingdom's army. Will says yes, and the king has a special priest perform a ceremony to welcome Will into the army. After that, Will becomes an official soldier of the kingdom. The next morning, Will was eager to find soldiers who wanted to help him fight the demons. But most soldiers were scared and thought it was too dangerous, so they left without joining. Just when Will thought no one would join, a man named Restov came forward. He said that he and his group of friends wanted to help Will. Will tried to tell Restov how dangerous the mission was, but Restov wasn't scared. He was excited to go with Will and introduced all his friends. The day after that, the king had a special event for Will. The king made Will a knight and gave him a special sword. The next morning, Will, Restov, and all the other soldiers started their journey to help other cities. They met people on their way and helped them out. After some days, they all decided to take a break and rest. During this time, Restov told Will a sad story. He said that he had sent some of his soldiers to look around the forest, but they hadn't come back. They were supposed to be back in 10 days, but it had been 20 days now. Worried, Will and his group started searching for the missing soldiers. After looking for a while, they found the soldiers, but they were not alive. It looked like a big monster had attacked them. Will told everyone to be very careful because the soldiers who were attacked were very strong and experienced. As they kept walking, Will realized that they were surrounded by dangerous magical creatures. Before they could react, the creatures attacked them. Will quickly used a magic spell to make all his friends stronger. Then, a big magical beast appeared, the same one that probably hurt the missing soldiers. This beast attacked Meneldor, one of Will's close friends, and hurt him badly. Even though there were so many creatures attacking them, Will tried to help Meneldor. But while he was doing that, he got hit by a magic lightning bolt. This made Will very angry, and he started fighting the creatures with all his strength, using his new sword. He fought so hard that he became very tired, and after making sure Meneldor was okay, he fainted. When he woke up, Restov was there. Restov told Will that Meneldor was still asleep but getting better. Even though Will wanted to see Meneldor right away, Restov told him to rest first. Will felt bad and blamed himself for what happened to Meneldor. He went outside where it was raining softly, thinking about everything that happened. Later, he went to see Meneldor and helped him heal. While doing this, he told Meneldor that he was scared of losing more friends and felt bad about not being able to protect him. While deep in thought, Will has a special talk inside his mind with a goddess. He promises her that he will try not to make the same mistakes he made before. He decides he wants to deal with his problems all by himself. So, Will leaves the place where they were resting. It doesn't take long for Meneldor to find him. When they meet, Will tells Meneldor that he wants to go face the magical creatures by himself. He tells Meneldor he doesn't want any help. This upsets Meneldor a lot, and he gets so angry that he tries to hit Will. But Will is quick and dodges Meneldor's attacks. Then, in a fast move, Will pushes Meneldor down and breaks his arm on purpose so that Meneldor can't follow him. Even though Meneldor's arm hurts a lot, he doesn't give up. He uses magic to push Will back. Meneldor reminds Will that they are best friends and he won't leave him, especially when things get tough. Hearing these words, Will gets very emotional and cries. He agrees to let Meneldor come with him. Together, they go back to the city and make a plan to beat the magical creatures. The next morning, they gather all the soldiers they can find, like knights and people who know magic. They march together towards the place where the magical creatures are. The creatures see them coming and start running towards them, ready to fight. But this time, Will, Meneldor, and all the soldiers work together perfectly, and they win the battle. Feeling brave, Will and Meneldor continue walking, trying to find the biggest and scariest creature. All of a sudden, Will feels something strange and tells Meneldor to stop. That's when a huge creature appears out of nowhere. It was using magic to hide. Will tries to talk to the creature to see if they can solve the problem without fighting, but the creature doesn't listen and attacks them. Using all their skills and magic, Will and Meneldor manage to beat the big creature. After that, they explore some old buildings nearby, and guess who they find? It's Rostov. He went ahead and had already beaten a hidden dragon that was inside one of the buildings. Watch this next video. See you on the next one.